I was in this horrible motorcycle accident, almost lost my arm, almost lost my life. What we don't talk about in things like this is the mental health component. Because in the beginning, I thought I was fine. I always just bounce back from things. I was like, I'll just get up and I'll be fine. You can let me out of the hospital tomorrow. Literally the day they let me out of the hospital, the day after a major reconstructive surgery on my arm, I came here, I cooked a steak, and I started planning for a speaking engagement the next day. And it took people being like, Jesse, lay the F down. And over the next couple of weeks, it really started settling in that I was not just going to bounce back from this. My arm was not going to be fine. My brain from the TBI or the concussion was not going to be fine. I wasn't going to get back to things as normal. And that was a struggle because, again, I've learned that if you're just dogged and persevering, it doesn't matter, you get through anything. And that's really how I got through prison. I just kept hitting a wall and I kept knocking and pushing until I got through that wall. That's what's allowed me to get out here. I made 6 videos a day, every single day for 2 years on social media, which allowed me to build a big following. And I felt like if I just kept doing, that would answer all the problems. But now I'm in a position that physically and mentally, I just can't keep doing. I just can't keep persevering. I can't be dedicated in the way that I was because I just don't have the energy. And so then all of a sudden, all these things start coming up. And some of them are from the accident. Some of them are, man, I feel so just ineffectual. Like it took me probably 10 minutes to get this damn glove on because the swelling is still bad. They want me to wear the compression glove. And it's such a pain when one of the fingers becomes reversed that I can't do this. And it takes me a long time to shower and it takes me a long time to do anything. It feels like an endeavor. Like getting ready to shower and then put all this stuff back on feels like a job. It feels like work. I get intimidated by that, and then I feel just like I'm not doing enough, or I'm not strong enough, or I'm not fast enough. And basically the break from routine. To give you an example, I saw the PT yesterday, and she cleared me to start exercising again. And before this accident, I was deadlifting 400 and some pounds. I was clean and jerking. I was doing athletic stuff. I was doing jujitsu. And now my workout was some body squats and some leg lifts on the ground because that's really all I can do. And to go from a position of strength and ability to a position of limit or limitation just sucks. It doesn't feel good. And that's the stuff from the accident, that questioning is something wrong with me, or am I ever going to get better, or what do I have to do, or just pushing myself through it, just being like, oh, I know it hurts and I know I haven't slept in days, but I just got to get through it. And that doesn't work. That approach may have served me in other areas of my life, but it doesn't serve me now. And what I realize, and this is the kind of deeper thing that isn't about the accident, but is actually about everything else, is so often that busyness and that doing and that priority and that being almost manic is about keeping feelings at bay or keeping thoughts at bay or keeping fears at bay. Because if I'm doing, I'm not in the middle of really feeling. And so I have this busy life. I'm working 12 or 14 hours a day and I'm always in the mix of it. So I never really feel like I'm coming down. I never have to sit in the stillness like I did for all those years in prison, for all those years of meditation. And all of a sudden now, with the ability and the busyness and the schedule kind of stripped away, I'm feeling all those feelings. And this is the mental health side of it. So some of it is, again, just wondering if I'm going to get better, if I'm going to get back to where I was or get back to a normal life or what that looks like. Some of it's frustration because I don't usually get frustrated. I always look on the bright side of things. And I found myself just so frustrated with just some of the smallest things, or in some cases even with people, and having to apologize because I've just been short-tempered. And Morgan was really good about this when we took our trip. And she was like, hey, I know it's just a TBI. You're okay. But at the same time, I get disappointed in myself when I feel this frustration or when I get frustrated with somebody else and I'm think I'm doing something wrong. So I feel like I'm not doing enough or I'm not doing well enough or I need to do better or whatever the situation is. In that stillness, I start to feel these kind of doubts and these fears. What am I doing with my life? And I was already questioning that. Remember in September, I'd given up my lease, packed everything in my car and just started traveling. Again, what a greater sense of freedom than to literally get in my car and just drive across the country, meeting people and having experiences and seeing things and hiking and meeting businesses and other nonprofit leaders, to being stuck in this place where so often I feel like I'm just here. I'm here and yeah, I may make a foray out to the grocery store. I may make a foray out to the co-working space so I can get out of the house for a little bit, but otherwise I'm basically sitting here on this couch. And it feels very small and it feels very limited. But again, what it does is it allows me to sit and be still and feel those feelings and the questions of, who do I want to be? And what do I want to do? And what do I want to be in the world? Well, they're a lot louder and they're existential questions. They're big questions of why. And we don't usually talk about that. We don't talk about why am I here? Or why do I get up in the morning? And it's just a societal thing we just push off. Or especially, this is very stereotypical, but a lot of guys that I know and I myself will just fill that with action. I'll just be busy and I'll take on tasks and I'll take on projects and I'll help people. And by doing that, I don't have to sit with those feelings. And what I'm realizing is that I sit with them, I don't really know. I don't know the answers. I feel disconnected from a lot of the people around me. I feel disconnected from a lot of the things in my life. I feel disconnected from my why. I feel disconnected from the things that I was passionate about. And I want to have that connection back. I want to live from a place where I really feel engaged. When I think about it, I ended up running the nonprofit because I went to prison and I came out and started on social media and happened to be in the right place at the right time that somebody offered us some funding. But when I think about like what I really want to do, like at my core, I think about young Jesse or like little kid me. And what did he want? Like, who did he want to be in the world? And before all this stuff happened, before everything happened or everything went bad or went wrong, like who would I have been or what would I have been? And I remember wanting to solve problems. I remember wanting to solve puzzles. I remember wanting to be engaged. All I wanted to do was just be doing stuff. So as a kid, I would be like walking around in the woods and building stuff or tearing stuff down. I would be reading. I'd be working on projects. And I think about that. And so I'm kind of in touch again with that desire to do whatever it is I wanted to do before or be whoever it is that I wanted to be. But it's also kind of scary. Because it's one thing, when I had the accident, I had so many people reach out by text or email or DMs or whatever. And then because people implored me, I started a GoFundMe. And some of the messages I got, both with donations on GoFundMe as well as just general messages, kind of touched me, but also made me weirdly uncomfortable. Because people said these really amazing things about me. They said, Jesse, like, you've meant so much to me, or we need you in the world, or the world needs you, or these things that are very positive. But some part of me then has this imposter syndrome or this shame of like, no, like they're wrong. Like there's no way I'm actually like doing that much good, or there's no way they think I'm doing so much more than I am, or I just don't feel worthy of it. And I think one of the things is I always thought I was supposed to be small. Like that's one of the lessons I got from childhood, like stay small, stay quiet, stay out of the way. Don't take any risks. Don't let anybody see you. And so being in the world where I literally went from being in prison, where I was basically alone or in my head, even if I wasn't completely alone, I was like alone or in my head most of the time. I was reading or I was working, or I was whatever, to being in the world where I was constantly busy and I'm constantly around people, or I'm constantly engaging with people online, or I'm constantly engaging with people via whatever method. And so it couldn't be more different than that. I went from being alone and away from the world, like the little kid idea that I was supposed to be small and away from the world, to being in front of everybody. I think my biggest video had like 30 million views. So 30 million people have seen at least some part of my story, which is wild to think about. And when I go places and I see people, and especially when I get, emails or messages or people approach me on the street and say, hey, your story's inspiring. And they tell me about their family member who's locked up, or they tell me about their struggles, or they tell me about their kind of experience with self-pity. And I try to be very open about that I've had times of feeling sorry for myself. I've had times of being angry. I've had times of doing all those things, because my hope is that if my story can positively affect somebody, then hey, maybe there's a little bit more hope or a little bit more drive or a little bit more something in the world. But at the same time, when I see evidence of that, or when someone points that out to me, I feel kind of uncomfortable. I feel like, again, that imposter syndrome, like maybe I shouldn't be doing this, or maybe this isn't right, or maybe whatever. And all that's just in my head. All that's just insecurity. But dealing with those insecurities as I face these big questions of like, why do I get up in the morning? Like, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? And not knowing that. And again, really recognizing and feeling the disconnect of that, because I love the work that I do. I loved going to the juvenile center. I love the mentorship program we're doing at the nonprofit. I love public speaking. I love some of the consulting I do where I know there's going to be an impact, or where I see the impact. But the question is just like, yeah, what's going to make me happy? What do I really want to do in the world? I don't know. And I think that we don't spend enough time talking about that. What I notice is I'll kind of freak out, or I'll worry about like, we were in line for a really big fellowship and we were in line for a really big grant. And the fellowship I was most excited about because it would have brought me around people who were incredibly successful, very big in the nonprofit world, very big in the funding world, who I could have learned from, because I needed to learn to be a better leader. I need to learn to be a better team builder. I need to be a better fundraiser, all these things. And so I was looking forward to that. And then it just fell through at the last minute, which, happens. And then we didn't get the big grant we were waiting for. And so now I'm worried, because it's like, okay, well, we have an operations person who's amazing. Since my accident, I haven't been able to do half the work that I normally do. And the operations person has stepped up and just done anything. And she could be making 5 or 10 times what she's making with us. She's working with us because she cares about the mission. But then I think about like, well, if I don't raise enough money, I won't be able to pay her. Like I won't be able to, like, how am I going to do this? And start freaking out. And I start getting out of this place of fear. And so I'll just decide maybe I should get a job. And that's actually one of the things that people have been pushing me for, is because I have to pay for insurance out of my pocket. And because all the money I make is 1099. So it's all like, there's no W-2 match. There's no whatever. People were like, you should just get a job with a company that has a really good insurance plan and go ahead and take care of all your ailments. Like take care of in case you need more surgery or more PT, or you need anything to follow up the TBI. And it's like, yeah, that would be nice. Like I would like to get a job. But then the question is like, what would I even do? And I actually applied for a job. Somebody who I really, really admire, who in his own way had kind of a major setback in life, just kind of like taken off the elevated seat, through no fault of his own, by the way, just a really good guy who was in a bad situation. And what I saw was he built himself back, but he had to kind of go through that dark night of the soul of the questioning and the doubting and the hopelessness and everything. And that's kind of what I'm going through. And again, we don't really put a face on that. Or it was funny, I was talking to somebody the other day and he said, I've been following you on Facebook and I know you're putting on a good face for everybody. How are you really doing? And that's it. Like, I'm really struggling. Like, not every day. Some days are fine, but there are days where, yeah, I'm really struggling and I don't know what I'm doing. And it's not even so much the arm. Like, yeah, the arm sucks and I'm not sleeping nearly enough and it's not a pleasant experience and it's not fun and I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. But I think, or at least I hope, that I'm going through kind of a reckoning. I'm going through an exploration. I'm being forced to slow down because when I was arrested, it slowed me down from that manic state that I was in. I went to prison in a place that I was forced to be slow. Like, there is no fast pace in prison. Like, yeah, you have like violent affairs or you have things that are fast in a moment, but overall, the life is incredibly slow. And it was good for me. It was good for me to be slow. It was good for me to be reflective and be meditative. And now I was back in this kind of crazy manic pace with the nonprofit and consulting and working and traveling. And now I'm forced to be slow again. Now I'm forced to not have everything on my plate and not be able to do everything. And it sucks and I don't like it. But at the same time, I think in some ways it's the best thing for me. At least I'm hoping it's the best thing for me. So I'm really trying to reckon with the doubts and the sadness and the just like questions and the hopelessness that comes across. And I actually had a therapy appointment this morning and I was so grateful. I have such a good therapist. I've been seeing therapists for most of my life. I saw therapists all the way through prison. And I've always been afraid to talk about certain things like feeling hopeless or asking the why questions, because I think that like they're going to worry about me or they're going to think something's wrong with me. I don't know. There's some internalized fear there. But I brought that up with her and we talked about it today. And she just encouraged me to kind of dive into those feelings. She was like, yeah, the only way through them is through them. So like, let's talk about them. Let's experience them. And I'm just so grateful to have a therapist who can support me in ways that I need and really kind of give me the direction that I need or the reflection that I need. And so I'm realizing, yeah, that's kind of my job right now, is to slow down and in some cases to be miserable, to not be sure, to be doubting and be uncomfortable and be a lot of things. And then from there, hopefully emerge like I'm coming through a cocoon or going through a metamorphosis so I can be the person that I want to be. So I can learn from these lessons and I can become a better person doing better things. And it sucks that it took all the pain, and it sucks that it took the loss of mobility of the arm, and it sucks that I laid my buddy's brother's bike down, which is just a terribly sad thing. And it sucks that I had the accident right after I sold my bike that I had the $1 million insurance plan on, because that would have paid for all my medical stuff. But when I sold it, the insurance plan, I closed the insurance plan. So like the timing was not good, and the way it happened was not good. But again, in a way, I think that this was a good thing for me. And it's hard to look, suffering in the face. It's hard to look limitation in the face and see it as a good thing. But it's what I looked at in prison. Everything that happened, I tried to look at as an opportunity. So when I felt sorry for myself, when I felt angry, when I felt limited, when I felt like there was some wrong that was happening, I tried to look at it as an opportunity. Like, what can I do with this? What does this give me the opportunity to do? What kind of person does this give me the opportunity to be? What kind of fear does this give me the opportunity to face? And every time, whether it was something with another incarcerated person, with the system, some unfair situation, with whatever, it gave me an opportunity. And that's, again, how I try to look at this. So I'm going to have some times of moping, feeling sorry for myself, and we lost out on that fellowship and that grant. I definitely started kind of feeling sorry for myself and started feeling worried about the nonprofit and where we're going and what we're doing. But at the same time, it's an opportunity to feel that and experience that and learn from that and then move forward. And the problem is that I've been in such a state that I've been busy, that I've always been moving forward without really feeling it. We've always been moving forward without really kind of like reckoning with what's happening or reckoning with what I'm learning or reckoning with the experiences. And so that's why I apparently felt the need, or the universe felt the need, to slow me down and make me stop and actually make me start to experience. So I'm in a much slower lane now. Somebody sent me a text that I really appreciated. He said, yeah, you're on your way to Jesse 3.0. Like, I can't wait to see. I'm glad you slowed down. And I need that. I need people who can see what I'm going through and kind of reflect in a positive way. I got a lot of people who are like, oh my God, this is so terrible, I'm sorry. Other people are like, hey bro, like, you're going to make something good out of this. Or, hey, it's your turn to make something good out of this. And that's what I need to be reminded of. Also, I have people who are like, hey bro, like, it's okay to feel sorry for yourself. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to, lay there and kick and scream and cry for a while, because I have, and I'm sure I will again. Especially with the lack of sleep. That part just sucks. But trying to look at the opportunity in this, I'm trying to recognize that I will get through this as a better person because I'm looking at it as a learning experience. And that's the biggest thing in life. That was the difference between me and a lot of people in prison, is I took the experience that I was having and I turned it into an opportunity. And so many people just took the experience and they were mad and they pushed it away and they fought against it and they said it was wrong or it was bad. And some people it was. Like, some people were falsely incarcerated. Some people got way more time. Like, I got double the high point of my sentencing guidelines. I saw guys who got way more than that. But at the same time, it was a question of, can you put that aside and figure out a way to make the best of wherever you are? Like, what can you do with where you are? And that's what I'm trying to do now. And the problem is I have to do it a lot slower, so it's a lot more uncomfortable. And I'm a lot more limited, so it's a lot more uncomfortable. But at the same time, when I stop, and sometimes I'll get frustrated about trying to do something like put this glove on and it takes forever. Other times I'll look at it as a puzzle. Like, hey, let me see if I can figure this out. Because little kid me loves solving puzzles, love figuring things out. And when I give myself the opportunity to do that, when I can change my perspective on what I'm experiencing and experience it as a puzzle, or experience as a learning experience, or experience as an opportunity, all of a sudden what happens is totally different. Like, nothing externally has changed. Like, my arm is not better. I'm not in less pain. Like, my brain is not clearer. But at the same time, my experience of what's happening is dramatically different. And that's where we have the power, because we don't have the power to make our arms better, but we have the power to learn from our mistakes and learn from our experiences and sit with our emotions and sit with our fears and allow the experiences we have to shape us in the best way possible. I think of my grandfather, who I love more than anything and was just genuinely the best person I've ever met. He lost his son to suicide. It was one of the most horrible things I can imagine, probably the most horrible thing I could imagine. And somehow he came out of that a better person. And I remember asking about this. He's since passed away, but I asked if he was okay if I was talking about that. And he said, yeah, like, I don't want anybody to have to go through that. But if anybody does, I want them to be able to come out on the other side somehow a better person or a bigger person or have more room in their heart. And that's what he talked about. Like, he was hopeless and he was lost and he went through it. And he said it just kind of like ate him inside. Like, he's not the same person. As he said, part of him is gone. Part of him is gone forever. But what that allowed was more space to fill with love, more space to fill with care and compassion for other people, more space to fill with whatever goodness he had in his life. And if he can do it, and if I watch people go through terrible heartache or terrible suffering or terrible loss and somehow become a better person, anything, going to prison, having, busting my arm up, banging my head, whatever it is, I can do the same thing. And it's not an obligation, because a lot of my life I was like, oh, well, I have to do this. And I struggle with that too, because I feel like I have to do for other people and I have to do these things. So it creates a sense of pressure, but it's an option. I have the choice. I can sit here and feel sorry for myself and then get up and do something with it. Or I can sit here and keep feeling sorry for myself, forever and then not be anywhere else. And it's like, why would I want to do that? I don't want to be miserable forever. I'll be miserable when I have to be miserable. I'll feel my feelings, but then I want to make sure that I get somewhere else. And I think that so often we feel powerless, and it's that kind of like internal versus external locus of control. We feel like, oh, well, this happened to me, so now I'm powerless. It's like, hey, stuff happens to us all the time. The only thing we can control is our response to it. And so that's what I'm trying to do now. And that's what I encourage other people to do, is when you fall down, be willing to get back up, but also be willing to feel the feeling of falling down. Be willing to feel the feeling of being on the ground and being limited and being low and being in a place that you may feel weak, or you may feel shamed, or you may feel whatever else, because there's a lesson in that. There's value in that. And it's so uncomfortable. And like, again, this stereotypically, like, as a guy in society, we're taught to not do that. We're taught to not stay low or not stay whatever. But in a weird way, it's been the best thing. Every time I've fallen, I've been knocked down, I've been hurt, I've been in a place of loneliness, I've been through a period of suffering. It's turned out to be the best thing for me. So I'm hoping that will again be the case here. And I'm hoping I get some clarity on who I want to be and what I want to do when I grow up and where I want to live and all those things. But at the same time, I recognize that I won't get that until I experience this. So I'm trying to just sit here and experience this. And yeah, it's pretty damn unpleasant, but I think it's going to work.